We'll be joined a little bit later by the head coach of the UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley. I'm dropping our interview from Big East Media Day. We spent 2 hours up there talking to every coach and players from almost every team during our time up at Media Day, during our stream. You can find all of that in the link below. It's on the YouTube channel as well if you're interested in tapping in there. We were able to spend 15 minutes with Danny Hurley. And I thought it was a pretty enlightening interview. We talked a little bit about Andre Jackson's health, the impact that Donovan Clingan can have with this program, and what he is expecting out of specifically Jordan Hawkins and Alex Caravan. So you'll be able to hear all of that in a little bit. It'll be at the end of the interview. What I figured I could do here at the Open was just talk a little bit about some of the scuttlebutt and some of the rumors and some of the conversations that you have at Media Day. Look, you're talking with coaches, you're talking with people that cover the league, you're talking with people that cover college basketball nationally, you're talking with people that work for the Big East, you're talking with everybody that shows up for that event. Some of it's on the record, some of it's off the record, but it's a good chance to kind of get a feel and a pulse and a sense for what people are expecting out of this conference and out of some of these teams. So I'm just going to roll through some of the stuff that I found out. First, programming notes. Make sure that you subscribe to the Field of 68 Daily. It is our newsletter. It comes out every single morning. It'll be in your inbox at 8:30 a.m. Perfect to be able to drink coffee and read about college basketball and get caught up on everything going on with the sport. That link is in the description below. If you're interested in buying something from our merch store, that link will be in the description below as well. And again, the Almanac, 1999, 600,000 words, 814 pages. We spoke to every single Division I head coach, 1,300 words on every single Division I team in the program. So, there's plenty of stuff to get you ready for college basketball, and that the link, again, in the description below, all that stuff is down there. All right, let's start with Creighton, because for my money, I do think that Creighton is going to be the best team in the Big East this year. They were rightfully ranked as the preseason favorite in the conference. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that's the case. One of it is you have all of these sophomores coming back that are going to take that sophomore leap. I think that what they can be defensively with the addition of Baylor Shireman opening things up offensively is what makes Creighton really dangerous. And I trust Greg McDermott. I think that he is a very, very, very good head coach. So when you combine what Ryan Nembhard, what Trey Alexander, what Arthur Kaluma can be in their second season in the program, with the addition of a guy like Baylor Shireman, who is an elite offensive weapon, all of a sudden you can go 4-on-1. You have three guys that can potentially be primary playmakers on the floor. You have shooting. You have the creativity of Greg McDermott's offensive sets to be able to scheme things for Baylor Shireman and scheme things for Arthur Kaluma and be able to get some of these guys touches. It's the perfect makeup of what you want a college basketball team to be. Three playmakers, a couple guys that are switchable, and a four-man that could step out and shoot and beat people off the dribble, and a five-man that's going to erase everything at the rim if you get out and pressure on the perimeter. But one thing I do want to note, in talking with people in that building, I've been on the bandwagon that I think that Ryan Kalkbrenner has a very real chance to develop into not only the Big East Player of the Year this season, the National Defensive Player of the Year this season, and one of the top 5 big men in the entire sport. But people around that program and people around the Big East, one thing you keep hearing, Trey Alexander, he might end up being the best player on that team this season, which is not something that I think a lot of people have expected. But I do think it's fair to say he's probably the best pro prospect on that team, just because, I mean, he's 6'4". We know what he is as a defender, and we saw what he could be as an offensive player when Ryan Nembhard went out last season. And I do think that it's important to note that the success that Creighton had playing through injuries is going to end up paying dividends for the program as a whole this season, because guys like Trey Alexander got thrown on the fire and we can see what they could be as point guards. So I'm all in on Creighton. I think that they are a top 10 team heading into the season. I think there's a very real chance that they can get to the Final Four, and they are a team that it would not surprise me if they found a way to really make a deep run in March this season and win the Big East regular season title. So they're going to be really, really good. As far as Villanova is concerned, the injuries that they're dealing with, they're starting to add up, right? Cam Whitmore's got the broken thumb. Justin Moore probably won't be back until early in Big East play, probably as a best case scenario, if he's able to make it back at all. Like an Achilles injury, when you rupture that thing, one, you don't want to rush people back, and two, it really saps a lot of your explosiveness and a lot of your um, athleticism. Recovering from that, it's a very, I think it's the most serious injury that you can have that doesn't involve like a head or a neck or any internal organs. So it'll be, it's a big ask to get him back and expect him to be the same guy that he was last year. Cam Whitmore, I think, will be fine, but I mean, you're missing a lot of the preseason for a team that is reliant on concepts and as reliant on teaching people how to play as Villanova is. To have Cam Whitmore miss as much of the preseason as he's going to miss with a new head coach that is expected to step into the void of a Hall of Famer, that what a Hall of Famer and Jay Wright has left, like that's there. I think that we're underestimating just how difficult this transition can be for Villanova. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I do think that it is fair to say that this is still a team that should be a tournament team. This is still a team that probably has enough experience where they can be a top 25 kind of program and compete at the top of the Big East. Just by the simple fact, Caleb Daniels is back, Eric Dixon is back, Brendan Slater is back, Justin Moore is still around and will probably be back at some point. So those guys kind of can coach themselves. You don't really have to worry about anything. It's just I think that we're underestimating the impact of not having Jay Wright, and I don't think that I'm alone in that. As far as Xavier is concerned, they were picked second in the preseason Big East coaches poll, which was a little bit surprising. I think that you can go Villanova, Xavier, or UConn in any order, 2, 3, 4, and it's very difficult to argue with any of those. I'm not going to be the guy that tells you that you're wrong. It's going to be one of those situations where they're all basically the same, and whoever finds a way to win more close games is going to end up with a 14-6 record, and whoever finds a way to lose close games is going to end up 13-7 or 12-8. It'll be like 3 possessions difference at the end of the day, breaking up that group of 3 teams. But they're very clearly the second tier in the conference. What I will say is this: there's been a lot of talk about the suspension of Zach Fremantle, and kind of like the impact of losing a player like that to get suspended. I think that this is going to be a good thing for them long term, because one of two things is going to happen. Either Zach Fremantle is going to get in line and he's going to buy into what Sean Miller wants him to do. He's going to be 100% in on the defensive end. He's not going to what's the best way to phrase this? He's not going to throw hissy fits on the sideline. He's not going to basically be what he was for the last 3 years, more or less. So either you're going to have a great player, a guy that is good enough to be an all conference Big East kind of a performer, or you're going to have that impact out of the program. And I do think that it's fair to say not holding him accountable is part of the reason why Xavier had the drop-offs that they did at the end of the season. Look, I think Travis Steele is a good coach, and I think he's a really good guy, and I really like the human being. But I think part of the reason why they fell off at the end of the end of the years that they did the last couple seasons had to do with the fact that he was not able to hold these guys accountable and able to get them to buy in for an entire season. And that's absolutely not going to be the case with Sean Miller. So we've talked about the impact of Sully Boom. I think everyone at this point is on the Des Claude and Cam Kraft hype train. Sean has not been very quiet about the fact that he's very excited about coaching those 2 freshmen. Jack Nunge is obviously a very good player. There's a lot of talent around that program. Colby Jones is Colby Jones. There's a reason why he was the NIT MVP when Xavier made the run to the NIT championship. So Xavier is going to be really, really good, and they have a really, really good head coach. So I'm not shocked at all that a lot of people think that they could finish second in the Big East, because I think it's a very real possibility. Bottom line, as far as UConn is concerned, one thing that I took away from this conversation with Hurley is just how much he is betting on Jordan Hawkins having a huge breakout season and Andre Jackson being the guy that we all want Andre Jackson to be. And I don't know if I really want to go all the way down the wormhole there. I will say this: a lot of rival fans got very upset by my kind of tongue-in-cheek tweet saying that I think that Jordan Hawkins is going to be like Tyrese Martin and going to be like James Bouknight, where he doesn't get named to a preseason all Big East team and ends up having a massive breakout season. Okay, I get it. I was kind of joking around, but I think a lot of people took that as a little bit too serious. But I really do think that Hawkins has within his range of outcomes this season the potential to be a first-team all Big East performer. And I would not set that as a level of expectation. I think if he ends up being good enough to be in the conversation for a second team All Big East, then he had the kind of year that we need him to have. But I think that there's a real world where he's averaging 17 points per game this season, especially with the way that it sounds like Hurley's going to end up using him. The last thing I want to know is when you watch this interview on YouTube, watch Hurley's face when we bring up Alex Caravan. Watch the way that he reacts, and that should tell you everything you need to know about the impact this kid's going to have. I do want to make clear, I don't think Caravan is going to be a guy that ends up averaging like 17 points, 4 boards, and 4. Like, he's not going to be this kind of impact one and done talent. He's going to be someone that comes in, averages 8, 9, 10 points, averages a couple rebounds, gets a couple assists, shoots 40-something% from 3, is always in the right spot, never turns the ball over, keeps the ball moving. He's exactly the kind of glue piece that brings everything together. He's exactly the kind of role guy that can be that like big 3, small 4, switchable mismatch kind of a player that I think every good team needs with the way that modern basketball is being played. A couple other notes. Providence, like Bryce Hopkins is going to be a stud. Okay, just buckle up. Be prepared for the fact that you're going to have to deal with this dude that has a chance to be the Big East Player of the Year. I don't think that that's overstating it. He is exactly the kind of scoring combo forward that has a ton of success playing for Ed Cooley. We've seen it with LaDante Henton. We've seen it with guys like Ben Bentel, and he is right up there in that range, as good as those dudes. And I think that Ed Cooley is going to be able to get the best out of him. I also want to give a shout out to Devin Carter, who showed up with just the best suit that anybody had at Big East Media Day. He had the suit, he had on the nice shoes, he had on the crisp white turtleneck underneath with this big old silver chain. The hair was flowing. There were a lot of really well-dressed players at Big East Media Day, and Devin Carter stole the show. So shout out to him. That was pretty impressive. As far as Butler is concerned, I think everyone kind of understands like the impact that these transfers are going to have for Butler, right? Whether it's Ali, whether it's Manny Bates, whether it's Eric Hunter coming in from Purdue. We all know the role that each of those guys are going to play and the reason why they were brought in. But I want to just in talking with some of the staff and talking with people that cover that team, and in talking with Thad yesterday, the Simos Lukosius, I think is how you say it. I'm always going to butcher his name. And Jaden Taylor are going to be 2 really, really, really important pieces for them. If they can kind of, they both had huge performances in different games. Like we saw Simos have his 27 points in the Garden in the Big East tournament, and Jaden Taylor had a couple games that were similar. If they can kind of even out the valleys, right, where they're not having those huge games and then going 2 for 12 the next game, they're going to be really good, really consistent, really valuable wing pieces for this program and for this team. And I think, honestly, that people are kind of undervaluing Butler as we head into this season. There's real potential that this could be a top 25 team, and this could be a team that finishes in the top 4 of the Big East, even more than, I would put them on the same level as Providence when it comes to having the potential to be a spoiler and be someone from not that top tier that cracks into that top tier. I think Marquette's going to be good as well. I do think that it's closer to them going from what people project as an NIT team to being an NCAA tournament team, but we're going to see 5 out from them, or we're going to see a couple of their big guys really take a step forward. I think Cam Jones has a chance to be the breakout star in the conference. My colleague over on the DTF podcast, Terrence Oglesby, has already predicted that Cam Jones is going to be the leading scorer in the conference, which I can see being something that happens. I mean, that dude is a bucket. To me, the issue is going to be the defensive end for Marquette. Will they be able to get enough stops? Will they be able to get enough turnovers for a team that I don't think is going to be elite offensively? So that's going to be the thing to watch. But I do think that they have the potential to be a tournament team. Same thing with Seton Hall. It's just at this point, it's impossible to know what to expect out of them without knowing who's going to be healthy and when they're going to get healthy. They had basically 6 or 7 guys for all of their practices over the summer. Kadari Richmond, I think, was healthy for 1 practice. Alexis Yetna is still not healthy enough to practice. Those are 2 guys that are probably starters for this team. So that's difficult to deal with if you are a new head coach heading into a new situation. We'll say this, though. Alamir Dawes, their point guard, I think will be very, very, very good for Shaheen and for Seton Hall and kind of with what that program wants to be able to do. And Casey Ndefo, the 6'7" kid they got transferring in from St. Peter's, is he is going to be an absolute difference maker on the defensive end of the floor, and he is just the epitome of without going full Rothstein, he is the epitome of a glue guy, and I think that we're going to look up, and there's a chance he ends up being defensive player of the year in the Big East. I think he's that good. And the Johnnies, look, they're electric. They're also going to be infuriating at times. They are going to be the one of the most hot and cold teams, I think, in all of college basketball that we've seen in a very, very long time. And that's kind of the nature of the beast when you are a pressing team, even more so when your two best players are probably going to end up being Andre Curbelo and Posh Alexander. The X factor there to me is David Jones, the transfer from DePaul. If he can be a bucket getter and kind of fill the shoes left by whichever Champagny was at St. John's, I can never keep in track. I think it was Justin. That'll be important. DePaul, it's kind of hard to know what to expect from them with so many new faces. I will say this. I think Caleb Murphy is a pro, and he's out for 6 weeks with, I believe it is a foot injury, or maybe he's under, maybe it's, I saw the alert come through. I don't have it in front of me. So, but I do think that Caleb Murphy, I mean, he's electric. He's fast. He's explosive. He's the guy that could be the difference maker for him, and they won't have him for the next 6 weeks. And Georgetown, look, they're going to be a lot more talented than they were last year. The pieces are going to fit a lot better than they did last season. I think these transfers that Patrick has coming in are going to be good. And I think we're looking at a situation where they're like a 6 or 7 win team in the Big East, which is not great, but it is a lot better than being a 0-win team in the Big East. And that's kind of how I feel about DePaul too. That's kind of how I feel about Marquette. Like there's no easy games in this conference this year. There's no layups. There's no, we're going on the road and this is going to be a win. So I do think that that's going to be good for the Big East as a whole, because as we've seen with the Big 12, when the worst team in your conference is a team that is like a top 60 team in KenPom, it raises the computer numbers for everybody. And that's how you can get 2, 3, 4 teams that can get top 4 seeds. So it's a good thing for everyone involved to have good teams at every spot in this conference. It just means that there's going to be nights where you go on the road and you lose to DePaul, and you go on the road and you lose to Georgetown. And I just want to get it out there. Please do not melt down when that happens. There's going to be situations where it does this season. That's just what the Big East is going to end up being this year. So without further ado, let's get into that interview with Danny Hurley.
We're dropping our merch. We got to start calling Underwood Daddy Brad. But I'm a big pod guy.
Breaking news. The Field of 68 has an online store, and it's your one-stop shop for the latest and greatest merch in college basketball and college football. You can find shirts to support your favorite team, make fun of your rival team, or boast Field of 68 catchphrases like Daddy Brad, Cussin' and Discussin', and the Star Heels. Go to www.fieldof68.shop today and enter promo code TOUCHDOWN for 20% off at checkout.
We're live. Mike is hot.
We're live. We're coming
live. Ready to go.
Come in right away. How we doing, Coach? I was looking to see if you have my roster. Got so many new guys right now. I don't know.
You need the update?
No, I'm good.
Right here. Here we go. Right here. There you go.
Yeah. All right. How we doing? Hey, Coach, we're getting ready for it, baby. Phil, yes. All right. Now we're ready.
All right. So, Adama Sanogo, preseason player of the year in the Big East. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Right. Is that last couple times UConn guys have not been made some of those preseason awards. They've had great seasons.
Yeah.
Now he's getting the credit. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah. No, you I know you're a fan, right? Your fandom is clicking, and I think he's the one guy you don't worry about.
Yeah.
He's his own biggest critic. He's kind of hurts him sometimes because he's like truly a perfectionist. His work ethic is like highest level, and he beats himself up when he underperforms, and that's on a daily basis. But I think he's going to sustain a great season this year. I think he's got a team that suits him, especially at the offensive end, a lot better to give him space to operate. And then he's gonna have a backup at his position that's going to allow him to be fresh in March. I won't have to play him 38, 39 minutes.
I want to ask you about Donovan.
Yeah.
So 7'2", you lost 30 pounds, getting in shape a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was more like high 290s, mid 290s, and I think now he's in maybe the high 250s. You know, and hands. Hands.
Go on one of those workouts, one of those diets, whatever he did, I need to do.
Yeah.
Are you saying you want to go through a Hurley practice? God bless
can
you.
He make, can he make it through? Is he tough enough,
I think
Rob?
maybe the first, maybe the stretching, He'll get through the stretching. That might be it.
Yeah, maybe, right? He's like a unique player. He's a tremendous passer with great hands and great feel. He's going to be really effective in the ball screen game offensively. With a 7'2" guy rolling to the rim around some shooting and a facilitating guard, he's a real factor. Obviously, right now it's like ball screen defense. Like, how do we solve that puzzle for such a young player who's coming into college? Where because when he goes in the game, it's gonna be ball screen left, ball screen right. Teams will just completely go away from their offense and just try to expose him in that area. So that's the biggest challenge right now.
So with RJ Cole gone from last year.
Wait, you and Terry are not on the same page.
I mean, am I allowed to ask a UConn question?
No, hold on. I got another.
What are we doing here?
Okay. He teetered up. So
right.
RJ Cole's gone.
Yeah.
First team all conference guy last year. He was the guy at the end of games that you kind of put the ball in his hand and say, make something happen. We saw it against Villanova, right? Game win a shot. Bring in Tristan Newton. Andre Jackson broke his pinky? Broke something out for a while. How are you going to replace that? How do you change, or how do you fill that void? Because what RJ did, I think, is if you didn't watch all of UConn's games, like I did, of course, I don't think people really appreciated what he provided that team.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a great record in close games. So like that necessarily didn't work great, right? So I just think that this group is obviously on the perimeter. You lose Tyrese and you lose RJ, which were two really, really productive players. Now I'm betting heavy that Andre Jackson, when he's healthy, and Jordan Hawkins can have the same type of impact, even if the production isn't quite what RJ and Tyrese did, because I feel like we're going to get so much more scoring production from our fourth starter, our fifth starter, and our 6 through 9 or 10 on the bench. It's night and day in terms of the scoring that we could get at these other positions. So, I mean, we need Andre and Jordan to replace more of the impact, the playmaking, the athleticism, that Tyrese and RJ had, but we're going to get a lot more scoring at 4 through 10 than we had last year, and it won't even be close. It'll be night and day.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. I want to dive into Jordan Hawkins a little bit. I mean, silky smooth on the perimeter. You ran a lot of things to RJ. Obviously, you alluded to having to replace a lot of those things. What does he bring to you this year? What was his focus in the offseason? And is he going to have the year that a lot of us expect he's going to have?
Yeah, I just think from an offensive standpoint, last year, RJ, high usage rate, and played in the ball screen a ton, and it was a huge part of our attack. Because he was our primary guy in the perimeter. I think Jordan is going to be our primary perimeter scoring. And again, he's going to have a lot of support behind him. But yeah, I mean, he's a beautiful catch and shoot player. He's a great cutter. He's a pretty athletic player. And he's got a self-belief and a self-confidence. He's put on 15 pounds of muscle. He's one of the most beautiful shooters that we've had in a UConn uniform in a while. And I'm betting heavy on that sophomore year bump, that second year bump, that there's going to be a lot more nights for him like Auburn and Atlantis. And listen, in probably the first third of the year, we were probably playing Jordan because I didn't want him to go in the portal at the end of the year.
Right.
The last 2/3 of the season, I was playing him a lot. He was playing 18, 20 minutes a game because we were better when he was in the game. Mm-hmm. And when he got knocked out of the Big East tournament and the NCAA tournament, that legitimately hurt us a lot because he had become a reliable, really good player. I think he could play his way into a to being a first-round pick at the end of this year.
I agree with that. I was at that Auburn UConn game in the Bahamas. That was an unreal basketball game. Yeah. Unbelievable basketball game. You talked about scoring 4 through 10. Naheem Aligne, I mean, sporadic at times, but when he's hitting shots, I mean, he brings a different element to you off the bench.
Yeah, good player. Really good player. Becomes.
You knew he had to ask about the.
That's all I got. That's all I got. That's all I got. So you can ask the rest of the questions if you want to.
Yeah, we don't. That's all we have too, right? I don't think we have any other guy. Yeah, no, he'll be good for us. Really good. Obviously, with Andre out, puts you in a position where you're not losing as much sleep, because we did bring in some veteran transfer players, but he's a two-way player. He's physical. He's more athletic than I think. He's kind of looked. I think from a defensive standpoint, we get after people a little bit more, so he may flash a little bit more at that end of the court. He's a little bit better with the ball, I think, than he's shown, and I think he's going to be a solid double-figure scorer for us this year.
Alex Caravan, last guy that I want to ask you about. Freshman coming in, he redshirted second semester last year.
Yeah,
there's been some buzz. The guy can shoot it, right? He can play a lot of different positions. He fills a role and checks a box that I think every team needs.
Yeah, I'm smiling. I'm smiling. Listen, in recruiting or whatever projection you have going into a year, right? It's like some players are, what you thought they'd be. Some are slightly underwhelming or worse, right? And then some players, you're seeing where they're at a point in their career, and you're saying like I really believe in what this guy's could become here. I think he's going to be a great player over the course of his career with us. He's put himself in a position where he's got a real chance to start at the 4. The questions he's going to have to answer is, you got to be tough enough for us on the defensive glass, right? You've got to be able to defend well enough so that you're not killing us at that end. But he could help us so much at the offensive end. The guy knows how to play. He's a lights out shooter. He can really pass, and he's just going to open up the court for these two centers when we have him playing the 4.
That's what you need, those shooters to pull everybody out of the lane. What do you got?
It's the only reason I was good for anything. We alluded to Tristan Newton. I thought Hassan Diarra. I thought that was a sneaky little pickup there. He wasn't a huge producer at Texas A&M, but he's a mentality guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a toughness kid. He fits kind of what you're about.
He fits what we're about, and he fits the Big East.
Yeah, bingo.
Probably fits the Big East better than the SEC. And he played really well late in the year. When we went back and started watching his synergy when he went to portal, that was a big deal. And listen, for Tristan or for Hassan, to replace a first-team all-conference player who absolutely squeezed the lemon on his senior year in terms of how well he played, to expect one of those guys to be as good as RJ was is not realistic.
Right.
But the combination of both at that position could potentially give us more or as much as we got out of that position last year in terms of the starter and maybe, the backup. So,
The thing I like about that combo is that they can both kind of play on the ball. They can both be guys that play off the ball. They can both kind of facilitate. They can also both go score if you need them to go get a bucket, right? Yeah. Tristan can shoot it and space the floor a little bit. So
no doubt,
it gives you a little bit more versatility in terms of how you can play.
It does. And I think, when Andre is back and healthy, it was important to us that we obviously had guys that were comfortable as primary handlers at the end of games, right? To be able to put, a Tristan and Hassan on the court together at the end of a game, to not turn the ball over, to make good decisions and make free throws. But we really envision this team, Andre Jackson taking it off the defensive glass, doing what he does in transition, where he blasts it and just creates all types of opportunities at the 3-point line.
As long as he's not throwing it into the 9th row, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's high too. I mean, it's hard to miss by that much, but really, I think the upside of this team is to have, 3 shooter scorers around Andre, like in a flat ball screen by, with the preseason player of the year and the 7'2", center who we're really high on, and letting Andre create. I think the upside of having bigger guards with a lot of shooting, scoring, around potentially a dominant center with a really good backup is really exciting.
And what is there any update on the time frame for him? Will he be back by PK80? Is that kind of the best case scenario?
Yeah, I'm yesterday I was on the ride into the city. I was checking back in with the hand guy because we had a really bad practice. I was going to use the S word. So we were bad yesterday. So then in practice, so I immediately called his surgeon to find out. Wait, like, was it 6 weeks or 5 weeks? I think towards the last game or two going into PK 85, he's got a shot to be out there. Just because he's going to be doing a lot of cardio. He's going to be moving around a lot more in the next 5-6 days. And he's such a unique player. And I do think we're going to really turn him loose this year and let him just fly around the court and make all types of plays and really unleash him this year. I can't wait.
He'll be able to keep him in shape if it's a broken hand as opposed to a broken foot, right?
Yeah, no doubt. He's going to be able to keep going. And underrated the way he closed the season.
Yeah.
You know, I think you look at his assist to turnover, like the last 7 or 8 games, he really reeled it in. It's when he compounds the mistakes that we have to stop the game and get him out. But hopefully his growth as a player and what he did the last several games will bleed into the season.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I hope you have all over the locker room. Jordan Hawkins was not on the preseason All Big East team.
Yeah,
right?
I needle people. I needle them on that.
Yeah, so Tyrese Martin wasn't preseason first team All Big East, became the only player drafted last season, right? James Bouknight wasn't preseason first team All Big East, became a lottery pick. Jordan Hawkins, next one there, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think him and Andre. Listen, we have the best player in the league returning, and I'm betting heavy that those other 2 guys are all conference level players. If that plays out, then we just had a great year.
Yeah. I'm in.
Yes,
Coach.
All right, fellas.
Thanks so
Appreciate you
much.
guys.
Great to see you as always.
All right, fellas.
You can just roll out. There's nothing fancy here. This is how we do it.
Chuck the deuces and get out of here. I like it.